I supported my girlfriend's photography dreams for years, but she never took a single photo. When I suggested she get a job, she revealed a dark truth that changed everything. I, William, 28M, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend Chloe, 26F, for the past 3 years. We met during a mutual friend's birthday party at a local brewery. I remember that night vividly. I was running late because of a work emergency and almost didn't go. When I finally arrived, the party was in full swing. I spotted Chloe across the room, laughing with a group of people I didn't know. She had this infectious smile that immediately caught my attention. Our mutual friend, Jake, introduced us. Chloe and I hit it off right away, bonding over our shared love of indie music and cult classic movies. We ended up talking for hours that night, long after most of the other partygoers had left. I learned that Chloe was working as a part-time barista at a hip coffee shop downtown while pursuing her dream of becoming a professional photographer. For the first year of our relationship, everything was great. We went on adventures together, trying new restaurants and exploring hidden gems in our city. We even took a spontaneous road trip down the coast, sleeping in my beat-up old car and waking up to watch the sunrise over the ocean. Those early days were filled with laughter, passion, and endless possibilities. Chloe was always coming up with creative date ideas. One time, she surprised me with a picnic in the park, complete with a gourmet cheese plate she'd put together from samples at her work. Another time, she organized a scavenger hunt across the city, leaving clues at all the places that were significant to our relationship. Her enthusiasm and zest for life were infectious, and I found myself falling deeper in love with her every day. However, as time went on, I started noticing some concerning patterns in Chloe's behavior. About 6 months into our relationship, she quit her job at the coffee shop. She said the early mornings were interfering with her photography, and she wanted to focus on building her portfolio. I supported her decision, thinking it was a brave move to pursue her passion. But months passed, and Chloe didn't seem to be making any progress with her photography. She talked about grand plans, setting up a home studio, starting a website, reaching out to local galleries, but none of these ideas ever materialized. Instead, she spent most of her days at home, scrolling through social media and binge-watching TV shows. At first, I tried to be understanding. I knew how hard it could be to break into a creative field. I encouraged her to take small steps, like practicing her skills or researching photography contests she could enter. But whenever I brought up these suggestions, Chloe would get defensive. She'd say I was pressuring her or that I didn't understand her creative process. As our second anniversary approached, I realized Chloe hadn't worked or earned any income in over a year. She was living with her parents, who covered all her expenses. They seemed content to support her indefinitely, never pushing her to find a job or contribute to the household. I, on the other hand, had been working hard at my job in marketing. I'd recently been promoted to team lead, which meant longer hours and more responsibilities. I was trying to save up for our future together, dreaming of the day we could get our own place. The disparity in our situation started to create tension. When we went out, I always paid for everything because Chloe never had any money of her own. She'd often ask me to buy her things or take her places, and I felt guilty saying no. But at the same time, I was becoming resentful. Why was I working so hard while Chloe seemed content to do nothing? I tried to encourage Chloe to look for jobs, even if they weren't related to photography. I suggested she might take some online courses to improve her skills or expand her options. But she always had excuses. The job market was tough. She wasn't feeling well. She was waiting for the right opportunity to come along. Things came to a head last month when I suggested we move in together. I thought it might motivate Chloe to start contributing financially. To my surprise, she was excited about the idea but assumed I'd be covering all the expenses. When I explained that we'd need to split the rent and bills, she got upset and accused me of not supporting her dreams. That argument led to a bigger discussion about our future. I opened up about my concerns, explaining that I wanted a partner who was ambitious and self-sufficient, someone who could contribute to building a life together. Chloe accused me of being materialistic and said that if I really loved her, I would support her unconditionally. The thing is, I do love Chloe. When things are good between us, they're really good. We still have those moments of connection that remind me why I fell for her in the first place. Last week, we spent an afternoon at the beach, and for a few hours, it felt like old times. We laughed, we talked about our dreams, and I could see glimpses of the vibrant, creative woman I fell in love with. But those moments are becoming rarer, overshadowed by the growing resentment and frustration I feel. I can't shake the feeling that I'm being taken advantage of. I want to build a future with Chloe, but I'm not sure if that's possible if she's not willing to put in the effort. I've tried talking to her about my concerns multiple times, but the conversations always end the same way. Chloe either gets defensive or makes vague promises to change that never materialize. Her parents don't seem to see a problem with the situation and continue to enable her behavior. I'm torn because I care deeply for Chloe, and I remember how things used to be between us. I keep hoping that she'll snap out of this phase and become the motivated, ambitious person I know she can be. But with each passing day, that hope fades a little more. I'm not sure what to do. Part of me thinks I should give Chloe an ultimatum: Either she starts taking steps to become financially independent, or we need to reevaluate our relationship. But another part of me worries that this would be unfair or controlling. I don't want to force Chloe into a life she doesn't want, but I also can't continue in a relationship where I feel like I'm the only one invested in our future. Am I being unreasonable in my expectations? How can I address this issue without coming across as unsupportive or materialistic? Is there a way to motivate Chloe without pressuring her? I want to build a future with her, but I'm starting to wonder if our visions for that future are compatible. Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and I'm not sure which path to take. Update 1. It's been about a month since my original post, and I wanted to provide an update on the situation with Chloe. After reading the comments on my original post, I realized I needed to have a serious conversation with Chloe about our future. I spent several days thinking about how to approach the topic without causing another argument. Finally, I invited her over to my place for dinner, hoping that a relaxed setting might make the conversation easier. I cooked Chloe's favorite meal, homemade lasagna with garlic bread. As we ate, we chatted about casual things, recalling about some of our favorite memories together. After dinner, I suggested we take a walk in the nearby park. It was a beautiful evening, and I thought the neutral territory might help keep things calm. As we walked, I gently brought up my concerns. I started by telling Chloe how much I loved her and how I valued our relationship. Then, as calmly as I could, I explained that I was worried about the direction our relationship was taking. I told her that I wanted a partner who could contribute equally to our life together, both emotionally and financially. Chloe's initial reaction was defensive, just as I'd feared. She accused me of not understanding her creative process and said that I was trying to force her into a conventional lifestyle. But as we continued talking, walking slowly around the park, her tone began to change. To my surprise, she admitted that she had been feeling lost and unsure about her future for a while. Chloe opened up about how seeing her friends progress in their careers while she remained stagnant had been affecting her self-esteem. She confessed that her lack of direction had been causing her anxiety, which in turn made it harder for her to take action. It was a cycle she felt trapped in. As we sat on a park bench, watching the sun set, I suggested that we come up with a plan together. We spent the next few hours brainstorming ideas for how Chloe could start moving towards financial independence while still pursuing her passion for photography. We agreed that she would start by looking for part-time work to bring in some income while still having time for her art. She also decided to reach out to a local community center that offered affordable art classes to see if she could teach a beginner's photography course. It would be a way to share her skills and potentially network with other artists. For the next couple of weeks, things seemed to be improving. Chloe applied for a few jobs and even had an interview at a local bookstore. She also started posting more regularly on her photography Instagram account, engaging with other photographers and building her online presence. She attended a local art fair where she spoke with some gallery owners about potentially displaying her work. Although nothing concrete came from these conversations, Chloe seemed energized by the experience. She started talking about organizing her own exhibition, something she hadn't mentioned in months. However, as the third week rolled around, I noticed Chloe's enthusiasm waning. She started making excuses for why she couldn't go to job interviews. She'd say she wasn't feeling well or that something had come up with her family. When I asked about her photography, she'd change the subject or say she was waiting for inspiration to strike. Things came to a head last weekend. We had plans to go hiking, something we both usually enjoy. I was excited because I thought it would be a good opportunity for Chloe to practice her nature photography. But when I went to pick her up, she was still in her pajamas, scrolling through her phone. She said she didn't feel like going out and suggested we just watch movies at her place instead. I felt a surge of frustration. This was the same behavior that had been bothering me for months. I told Chloe that I was disappointed and that I felt like she wasn't taking our agreement seriously. She got upset and accused me of being controlling and unsupportive. We had a heated argument. Chloe said I was pressuring her and that I didn't understand how hard things were for her. She brought up how her parents never pushed her this way, implying that my expectations were unreasonable. I countered that I had been patient and supportive for years, but that I needed to see some effort from her side. The argument ended with Chloe asking me to leave. She said she needed some space to think things over. I left feeling angry and hurt, but also somewhat relieved that everything was out in the open. It's been 3 days since then, and Chloe hasn't reached out. I've been replaying our argument in my head, wondering if I was too harsh or if I should have approached things differently. Part of me wants to call her and apologize, to try and smooth things over. But another part of me feels like this might be the wake-up call Chloe needs. I'm torn between giving her the space she asked for and feeling like I need to push for a resolution. I care about Chloe, and I can see that she's struggling. But I'm also starting to wonder if we're truly compatible in the long term. Can I build a future with someone who seems unable or unwilling to take responsibility for their own life? I'm not sure what the next step should be. Part of me thinks I should wait for Chloe to contact me, to see if she's willing to make changes. Another part of me feels like I need to be proactive and maybe even consider ending the relationship if things don't improve. Any advice on how to proceed would be appreciated. I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and I'm not sure which path to take. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and a lot has happened. I wanted to share the latest developments in my situation with Chloe. After our argument, Chloe and I didn't speak for almost a week. It was a difficult and anxious time for me. I found myself constantly checking my phone, hoping for a message from her. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office to avoid going home to an empty apartment. My colleagues noticed something was off, but I didn't feel ready to talk about it. Finally, after 6 days of silence, Chloe reached out. She sent a text asking if we could meet at the local park where we had our first kiss. I agreed, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. When I arrived at the park, I found Chloe sitting on our usual bench, feeding the ducks. She looked tired and subdued, a far cry from the vibrant woman I fell in love with. As I sat down next to her, I noticed she was wearing the necklace I gave her for our first anniversary, a small silver camera pendant. It gave me a glimmer of hope. Chloe started by apologizing for her reaction during our last conversation. She admitted that she had been avoiding dealing with her issues and that my concerns had forced her to confront some uncomfortable truths about herself. Then, she revealed something that took me completely by surprise. Chloe told me that she had been struggling with depression for the past year but had been hiding it from everyone, including me. She said she was embarrassed about her lack of progress in life and that it had created a cycle of avoidance and self-doubt. Some days, she could barely get out of bed, let alone work on her photography or look for a job. I was shocked that I hadn't realized the extent of her struggles. Looking back, I could see the signs: her lack of energy, her avoidance of social situations, her decreased interest in things she used to love. I felt guilty for not seeing it earlier, but I also felt frustrated that Chloe hadn't confided in me sooner. We talked for hours, going over our relationship and our individual goals. Chloe said she wanted to make changes but wasn't sure where to start. She felt overwhelmed by the idea of job hunting or building her photography career while also dealing with her depression. I suggested that she might benefit from talking to a professional who could help her work through her depression and develop strategies for moving forward. To my surprise, Chloe agreed. She said she had been considering it for a while but had been too afraid to take that step. We looked up some local counselors on my phone right there in the park, and Chloe made an appointment for the following week. We also discussed our relationship. I explained that while I cared deeply for her, I needed to see concrete changes if we were going to have a future together. Chloe understood and asked if I would be willing to support her through this process of getting help and finding direction. I agreed, but with some conditions. I told Chloe that I needed to see consistent effort from her side. We came up with a plan. Chloe would attend counseling regularly, start volunteering at a local community center to gain some work experience, and set aside time each week to work on her photography portfolio. In return, I promised to be patient and supportive, but I also made it clear that I wouldn't continue the relationship indefinitely if I didn't see progress. We agreed to check in every couple of weeks to discuss how things were going and adjust our plan if needed. It's been a week since the conversation, and so far, Chloe seems to be sticking to our agreement. She went to her first counseling session and said it was helpful, if uncomfortable. She's also reached out to the community center about volunteer opportunities and has started organizing her old photography equipment. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I also know we have a long road ahead of us. Chloe's issues won't be solved overnight, and I'm trying to manage my expectations. I care about her and want to support her, but I'm also aware that I need to look out for my own well-being and future. I'm still not sure if Chloe and I will make it in the long term, but I feel like we're at least moving in a positive direction now. I'm hoping that with professional help and a clear plan, Chloe will be able to work through her depression and find her path. I'll continue to update as things progress. Thank you to everyone who's offered advice and support through this challenging time. Update 3. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in my situation with Chloe. Initially, things seemed to be improving. Chloe was attending her counseling sessions regularly and had started volunteering at the local community center twice a week. She even began working on her photography portfolio again, setting up a small home studio in her parents' garage. I was cautiously optimistic about these changes. Chloe seemed more energetic and engaged, and we were having meaningful conversations about our future together. We even started planning a small weekend trip to a nearby town known for its picturesque landscapes, perfect for Chloe to practice her photography. However, as the weeks went by, I started noticing some concerning patterns re-emerging. It started small at first. Chloe would oversleep and miss her morning volunteering shift. She'd promised to make it up later in the week, but often didn't follow through. When I gently asked about it, she'd get defensive and say she was still adjusting to the new routine. Then, Chloe began making excuses to skip her counseling sessions. She'd say she wasn't feeling well or that something had come up with her family. When I reminded her of the importance of consistency in therapy, she accused me of pressuring her and not understanding how difficult it was. Her enthusiasm for photography also seemed to be waning. The home studio she had set up was gathering dust. When I suggested we go on photo walks together, she'd say she wasn't feeling inspired or that the lighting wasn't right. The weekend trip we had planned kept getting postponed for various reasons. I found myself becoming increasingly frustrated. It felt like we were slipping back into old patterns, despite our previous conversations and agreements. I tried to be patient and supportive, remembering that change takes time, But I couldn't shake the feeling that Chloe wasn't fully committed to making real progress. Things came to a head last week when I brought up the idea of her looking for paid work, even if it was part-time or in a field unrelated to photography. Chloe became upset, saying that I was trying to force her into a conventional lifestyle and that I didn't understand her creative process. She accused me of not being supportive of her dreams and said that if I truly loved her, I would accept her as she is. This argument made me realize something important. While I do love Chloe, I'm not sure I can build a future with someone who isn't willing to put in the effort to grow and contribute to our shared life. I've spent the past 3 years hoping that things would change, but I'm starting to accept that maybe they won't. After a lot of soul-searching and a long talk with my best friend, I made the difficult decision to end our relationship. I met with Chloe yesterday at a quiet cafe we used to frequent. I wanted to have this conversation in person, in a place that held good memories for us. I explained my feelings as gently as I could. I told her that I care about her deeply, but that I don't think we're compatible in terms of our life goals and work ethic. I explained that I need a partner who is willing to put in consistent effort towards building a life together, and that I don't think she's in a place to do that right now. Chloe was understandably upset. She cried and pleaded with me to give her another chance, promising that things would be different this time. She brought up all the good times we'd had together and said that she couldn't imagine her life without me. For a moment, I wavered, remembering all the reasons I fell in love with her. But then I reminded myself of the past few months and how nothing had really changed despite multiple chances. I stood firm in my decision, though it broke my heart to see her so distraught. I suggested that we both take some time apart to work on ourselves. I encouraged Chloe to continue with her therapy and to focus on finding what truly makes her happy. As we said our goodbyes, Chloe asked if we could stay friends. I told her that while I care about her, I think we both need some space to heal and move forward. Maybe in the future, we could consider a friendship, but for now, it's best if we go our separate ways. Walking away from that cafe was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Despite the problems in our relationship, Chloe has been a huge part of my life for the past 3 years. I know there will be moments in the coming days and weeks when I'll second-guess my decision, when I'll be tempted to call her and try to work things out. But deep down, I know this is the right choice for both of us. I need to focus on my own growth and find a partner whose goals and values align with mine. And Chloe needs the space to figure out what she really wants from life, without the pressure of my expectations. I'm now focusing on healing and moving forward. I've signed up for a photography class myself, something I'd always been interested in but never pursued because I didn't want to encroach on Chloe's passion. I'm also planning a solo trip for next month, something I've always wanted to do but never found the time for. I've learned a lot from this relationship about what I need in a partner and the importance of addressing issues early on rather than hoping they'll resolve themselves. While it hurts now, I believe this experience will help me build healthier relationships in the future. Thank you to everyone who's followed this journey and offered advice along the way. Your support has been invaluable in helping me navigate this challenging situation. Here's to new beginnings and personal growth.